Andrea Smith got soaked by a stranger's car on the worst night of her life at 9:50 p.m. on a Thursday in October. 30 minutes later, she was dry and wearing a $1,000 dress in his penthouse on the Upper East Side. Sometimes the universe compensates for terrible days in the strangest ways possible. The day had started bad and gotten progressively worse. Andy woke at 6 a.m. in the dark to her alarm screaming in the tiny Williamsburg apartment she shared with her best friend Jasmine. The walls were thin enough to hear their upstairs neighbors already arguing about something involving a credit card and someone's mother. She took a quick shower in the bathroom that never quite got hot enough, made instant coffee that tasted like regret, and put on the blue dress she'd ironed the night before because she had an important meeting with advertisers today. The L train at 7:15 was packed with the usual morning crowd of people who looked as tired as she felt. Williamsburg to Union Square, transferred to the 6 train, Union Square to 51st Street. 45 minutes of being pressed against strangers who'd had varying degrees of success with deodorant that morning. She checked her emails on her phone during the ride and felt her stomach drop. Victoria had already sent 14 messages. The meeting time had changed. The presentation needed to be completely redone. The layout they'd spent 2 weeks on was apparently garbage. Of course it was. Chai-Tea magazine occupied the 23rd floor of a midtown building with views that would have been inspiring if Andy ever had time to look at them. The office was open plan, all glass and chrome, and the persistent smell of expensive coffee that someone was always brewing somewhere. Her desk was tucked in a corner, small and cluttered with stacks of magazines and printouts and sticky notes reminding her of the 1,000 things she needed to do yesterday. She'd barely set down her bag when Victoria's voice cut through the office like a knife through silk. "Andrea, my office. Now." Every head in the office turned, some with sympathy, some with relief that it wasn't them. Andy grabbed her tablet and walked to Victoria's office, trying to look confident despite the panic rising in her chest. Victoria Stone was 50-something years old, though she'd kill anyone who said so publicly. She wore only black or white, spoke in declarative statements that left no room for discussion or debate, and had made 3 assistants cry this month alone. 2 had quit. 1 was still recovering in the bathroom. Her office was pristine. White walls, black desk, abstract art that probably cost more than Andy's annual salary. Victoria sat behind her desk looking like she was posing for a magazine spread, which she probably was. Everything Victoria did was calculated for maximum impact. "The presentation," Victoria said without preamble. "Did you honestly think I would present that disaster to our advertisers?" Andy's stomach dropped. She'd spent 2 weeks on that presentation, had rewritten it 4 times, had stayed late every night making sure every slide was perfect. "I thought it aligned with what you asked for." "What I asked for was brilliance. What you gave me was pedestrian. The layouts are uninspired. The copy reads like a high school essay. And the photographer you booked? Marcus Chen? Are you joking?" Marcus has shot for Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. His portfolio is 5 years old. He's past his prime. I want fresh. I want innovative. I want someone whose name makes advertisers salivate. Marcus makes them yawn. Victoria tossed a folder across the desk. "Redo it. All of it. I want to see new mock-ups by 3 p.m. New photographer options by 5. And if the next version isn't exponentially better, you can start updating your resume." Andy picked up the folder with shaking hands. "The meeting is tomorrow morning at 9. Then I suggest you don't sleep tonight. Close the door on your way out." Andy walked back to her desk feeling like she'd been physically hit. 2 weeks of work destroyed in 3 minutes. 16 hours to completely redo everything. And if she failed, her job was gone. 3 years of sacrifice. 3 years of proving herself. All of it could disappear tomorrow. She sat down and opened her laptop, started over from scratch. The day continued its downward spiral from there. At 10:30, Marcus Chen called her cell phone personally. He'd heard he was being replaced. How did that happen? He'd cleared his schedule for this shoot. Did she know how insulting this was? Did she understand what this would do to his reputation? Andy apologized, made excuses, promised to try to fix it, while knowing Victoria never changed her mind once it was made up. At 11:15, the advertisers called. They had questions about market demographics, about projected reach, about cost per impression. Questions that Victoria should have been answering, but that got routed to Andy because Victoria was in a meeting about her own photo shoot for an upcoming issue. Andy fielded the questions while simultaneously rebuilding the presentation she'd spent 2 weeks creating. At noon, someone ate her lunch from the communal fridge. The sad salad she'd brought from home that was supposed to be her only meal until dinner with Ethan. Gone. Replaced with a post-it note that said, "Sorry, we'll replace. Anonymous." Anonymous never replaced it. At 1:30, Victoria emerged from her meeting and walked by Andy's desk. Glanced at her screen. Is that supposed to be the new layout? Because it looks remarkably similar to the old layout, which I rejected. Are you having comprehension issues, Andrea? No, I'm working on several variations. Work faster and better, preferably both. She swept away, leaving Andy to stare at her screen with tears burning in her eyes. She blinked them back. Crying at her desk was weakness. Victoria fed on weakness. At 2:15, she managed to grab a granola bar from her drawer, ate it in 3 bites while typing with one hand. At 2:45, she had 3 new layout options, showed them to Victoria. Victoria looked at them for exactly 30 seconds. The first one is derivative. The second one is trying too hard. The third one. This one. This might work. Do this one. And find me 3 photographer options who aren't Marcus Chen and aren't already booking out 6 months. I want someone available, talented, and reasonably priced. You have 2 hours. Andy went back to her desk, Googled photographers, called studios, left messages, got callbacks from assistants saying their photographers were booked solid, finally found 3 possibles. None of them were as good as Marcus. All of them were available because they were still building their reputations. At 5 p.m., her phone buzzed. Text from Ethan. Need to talk. Dinner tonight? 9 p.m. my place? Andy stared at the message. She and Ethan had been together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. The wedding was planned for next June. Venue booked, deposit paid. Invitations ordered but not yet sent. They'd had a fight last week. A bad one. About her work schedule. About her never being available. About him feeling neglected. About her prioritizing Victoria over their relationship. About whether she even wanted to get married at all if she was going to keep choosing work over everything else. She'd tried to explain. This was her career. This was her dream. Working for Victoria Stone, for CHIC magazine, this was what she'd wanted since she was 16 years old reading fashion magazines in her bedroom in Connecticut. It wasn't going to be like this forever. She was working toward a promotion. Once she made senior editor, things would calm down. She'd have more control, more flexibility, more time for him, for them, for their life together. He hadn't believed her, had said she'd been saying that for 3 years, and nothing had changed, except she worked longer hours and came home more exhausted. He'd left her apartment angry, hadn't called for 3 days, then sent a short text. Need some space to think. She'd given him space, had thrown herself into work even harder to avoid thinking about the fact that her relationship was falling apart. Now he wanted to talk. Maybe he'd figured things out. Maybe he was ready to apologize. Maybe he understood now that this was temporary, that she loved him, that she was just trying to build something for their future. She texted back. Okay. See you at 9. At 5:15, Victoria stopped by her desk again, looked at the 3 photographer portfolios Andy had pulled together, frowned at all 3. These are the best you could find? In 2 hours, yes. The first one is too experimental. The second one's work is technically proficient but lacks soul. The third one, what's his name? James Morrison. He assisted on several major shoots. Just went independent 6 months ago. Book him. If he's terrible, it's on you. The meeting is tomorrow morning. I'm not sure I can confirm him that fast. Then I suggest you start calling." Victoria looked at Andy more carefully. Actually looked at her instead of through her. "You look terrible. I've been here since 7:30. I haven't eaten. I've been rebuilding this presentation all day." "Yes, that's the job." Victoria picked up her bag. "I'm leaving. The presentation needs to be finalized and loaded into the system by midnight for the morning meeting. Don't leave until it's done. And Andrea?" "Yes?" "Tomorrow is your opportunity to prove you belong here. Don't waste it." She walked toward the elevators, called back over her shoulder. "And get some concealer. Those bags under your eyes are unprofessional." Andy sat at her desk and felt something inside her crack, just slightly. A hairline fracture in whatever was holding her together. She called Ethan. Voicemail. She texted, "I'm so sorry. Work emergency. Victoria needs this done tonight. Can we do tomorrow instead? I promise I'll make it up to you." The response came back in less than a minute. "Seriously? Again?" Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She could just leave. Could tell Victoria she'd finish it tomorrow. Could choose Ethan over this. Could prove to him that he mattered more than work. But tomorrow was the presentation. Tomorrow was her chance to prove herself. And if she failed, if Victoria followed through on her threat, then she'd have nothing. No job. No career. No dream. Just a failed relationship with a man who couldn't understand why she worked so hard in the first place. She texted back, "I'm sorry. I know I keep saying that. But I promise tomorrow. Dinner. Wherever you want. My treat." "Fine. Whatever." She felt the guilt like a weight on her chest but pushed it down. Turned back to her laptop. Called the photographer and miraculously got him to agree to a meeting tomorrow afternoon if the morning presentation went well. At 8 p.m., she was the only person left in the office. The cleaning crew came through, vacuumed around her desk, emptied her trash, asked if she needed anything. She said no thank you and kept working. At 8:45, she finally had the presentation exactly how Victoria wanted it, loaded it into the system, sent Victoria an email with the final version attached. Got an immediate response despite the late hour. "About time. See you at 7 a.m. tomorrow for final review before the 9 a.m. meeting." Andy closed her laptop, felt the exhaustion hit her all at once. She'd been running on adrenaline and spite for 13 hours. Her head was pounding, her eyes hurt, her body hurt, everything hurt. She gathered her things and headed for the elevator. In the bathroom mirror, she saw what Victoria had seen. Dark circles under her eyes, skin pale from not seeing sunlight, hair that needed washing. She looked like exactly what she was. Someone sacrificing everything for a job that was slowly killing her. The subway ride back to the Upper West Side took 40 minutes. She spent it staring at her phone, at the text thread with Ethan, at 3 years of conversations. Of "I love you" and "miss you" and "can't wait to see you." At 6 months of wedding planning, at a future that felt increasingly uncertain. She got to his building at 9:30, half an hour late. But she was here. That had to count for something. The doorman recognized her, had seen her come and go dozens of times. "Evening, Miss Smith." "Hi, Marcus. Mr. Parker's expecting you?" She held up her key, the one Ethan had given her for her birthday last year. Always. She took the elevator to the 8th floor, walked down the quiet hallway, unlocked his door, pushed it open. The lights were on in the living room. She could hear music playing, something soft and jazzy, the kind of music Ethan put on when he was trying to set a mood. Good. Maybe he'd made dinner. Maybe this was him apologizing. Maybe. She walked into the living room and stopped. Ethan was on the couch. He wasn't alone. There was a woman with him. Andy recognized her immediately. Rebecca. She worked with Ethan at his investment firm. Andy had met her at the company holiday party last year. She'd been friendly. Nice. Had complimented Andy's engagement ring and asked about wedding plans. Now Rebecca's mouth was on Ethan's neck. His hand was under her shirt. Her fingers were tangled in his hair. They were so involved in each other they didn't hear the door open. Didn't notice Andy standing there frozen in the doorway. Andy's keys slipped from her hand. Hit the hardwood floor with a sharp crack. They jumped apart. Ethan's eyes went wide. Rebecca scrambled to fix her shirt, face flushing red. Andy. Ethan stood up so fast he nearly knocked Rebecca off the couch. This isn't what it looks like. Andy's voice came out surprisingly calm. Eerily calm, like she was observing this from outside her own body. It looks like you're hooking up with your coworker on the couch where we watch movies together. I can explain. How long? What? How long has this been going on? She looked at Rebecca. 8 months? A year? Since before or after the proposal? Rebecca was adjusting her clothes, face bright red. I should go. No, please stay. Andy's voice had an edge to it now. I'd love to hear how long my fiancé has been cheating on me. Was it before or after Christmas? Before or after he proposed? Rebecca looked at Ethan. Ethan looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him. Rebecca answered. 8 months. The number landed like a physical blow. Andy actually took a step back. 8 months. Ethan had proposed in February. It was October now. 8 months ago was February. He'd proposed to her while he was sleeping with someone else. She started laughing. Couldn't help it. The absurdity of it. The absolute fucking absurdity of it all. You proposed while you were cheating on me. Andy, let me explain. It's not... I was going to end it. With her, I swear. I just needed time to figure out how... How to what? How to keep both of us? How to have your cake and eat it too? How to string me along while you fuck someone else? Don't talk like that. Don't talk like what? Like someone who just caught her fiancé cheating? How should I talk, Ethan? What's the appropriate tone for this situation? He ran his hands through his hair. You're never here. When was the last time we had dinner together? When was the last time you stayed over? You're always at work, always choosing Victoria over me. Always prioritizing your job over our relationship. What was I supposed to do? And there it was. The justification she'd known was coming. So this is my fault. That's not what I'm saying. It's exactly what you're saying. Andy's voice was deadly quiet now. You cheated for 8 months. You proposed while you were sleeping with her. And somehow that's my fault because I work hard. Because I'm trying to build a career. Because I don't drop everything the second you want attention. I didn't mean... Yes, you did. You meant exactly that. And you know what? You're right. I do work too much. I do prioritize my career. I do sacrifice things for my job. But I've never lied to you. I've never cheated on you. I've never promised you forever while I was screwing someone else. She twisted the engagement ring off her finger. It caught on her knuckle. She yanked it harder than necessary. Set it on the coffee table next to a wine glass that definitely wasn't hers. We're done. Andy, wait. Can we just talk about this? Can we... There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. You've been making it for 8 months. Goodbye, Ethan. She picked up her keys from the floor, her bag from where she'd dropped it, walked to the door. Andy, please, don't leave like this. She turned back, looked at him one last time, at the man she'd planned to marry, who she'd sacrificed so much for, who'd apparently spent the last 8 months deciding she wasn't worth staying faithful to. I hope she was worth it. She walked out, let the door close behind her, heard him call her name but didn't stop, got in the elevator, pressed the lobby button, watched the numbers count down, 8 floors of her old life disappearing. She made it to the sidewalk before the tears started. It was raining. Of course it was raining. Heavy, cold October rain that soaked through her coat in seconds. She stood there and cried. Let 3 years of a relationship wash away with the rain. Let the future she'd imagined collapse. Let herself feel every bit of the betrayal and hurt and absolute fucking exhaustion of a day that had started terrible and just kept getting worse. It was raining. Of course it was raining. Heavy October rain that soaked through her coat in seconds. She stood on the sidewalk and let herself cry. Let 3 years of a relationship wash away with the rain. Let the future she'd imagined dissolve into nothing. She pulled out her phone. Tried to order an Uber. No cars available. Tried Lyft. Same message. Tried to flag a taxi, but none of them stopped. The rain was too heavy, the traffic too bad, and apparently the universe had decided that tonight was the night everything went wrong at once. She started walking. The nearest subway was 3 blocks away. She'd go back to Williamsburg. To her apartment. To Jasmine, who would let her cry and would probably want to key Ethan's car and would help her figure out what came next. She made it 2 blocks before she crossed onto Madison Avenue. The rain was coming down so hard she could barely see. Her dress was soaked through, her coat useless, her hair plastered to her face. She was shivering and crying and probably looked completely insane. She didn't see the car until it was too late. Black Mercedes, driving too fast. Hit a massive puddle in the street at full speed. The wave of water hit Andy like a tidal wave. Dirty street water, garbage juice, whatever disgusting mixture accumulates in New York puddles. It soaked her completely. Face, hair, dress, bag, everything. She stopped walking, looked down at herself. At the absolute disaster that was now her entire existence. Screamed. Just pure frustration released into the rain. Are you kidding me right now? The Mercedes stopped. Brake lights flared. Hazards came on. The car was stopped in the middle of Madison Avenue, and someone was getting out. A man. Tall, dark-haired, wearing an expensive suit that was getting soaked in the rain. He ran back to her. I am so sorry. I didn't see the puddle. Are you hurt? Andy looked at him. At this stranger who had just completed the worst day of her entire life. Do I look hurt? I look like I lost a fight with a storm drain. You're right. That was a stupid question. He was taking off his coat. Here, take this. I don't need, please. I just covered you in garbage water. It's the least I can do. He draped the coat over her shoulders before she could protest again. It was warm and expensive and smelled like expensive cologne mixed with rain. I live 2 blocks from here, he said. Come on, you can get dry. Change clothes. I'll call you a car. Whatever you need, please. I feel terrible. Andy should have said no. Every safety rule she'd ever learned said to say no. Don't go anywhere with strangers. Don't trust someone just because they seem nice. Don't make stupid decisions just because you're upset. But she was soaking wet. She smelled like street sewage. She'd just found her fiancé cheating on her. She'd worked 18 hours for a boss who treated her like garbage, and this man seemed genuinely sorry, seemed safe. And honestly, at this point, what was the worst that could happen that hadn't already happened? Okay, she heard herself say. Okay. Thank you. He looked relieved. Come on. Car's right here. They drove 2 blocks in his Mercedes. The interior smelled like leather and expensive car freshener. He didn't try to make conversation, just drove carefully and pulled up in front of a building with a doorman. The doorman opened the door for them. Good evening, Mr. Greco. Mr. Greco. At least now she had a name. They took an elevator that opened directly into his apartment, not into a hallway. The elevator doors opened, and they were in his penthouse. Andy stepped out and tried not to stare. Floor-to-ceiling windows with views of Central Park. Kitchen with marble countertops. living room that was bigger than her entire Williamsburg apartment, art on the walls that looked expensive because it probably was, furniture that cost more than a year of her rent. "Nice place," she said. Massive understatement. "Thanks. Bathroom's through there." He pointed. "Towels in the cabinet. Use whatever you need. I'm gonna run out and get you some dry clothes." "You really don't need to." "Yes, I do." "What's your size?" she told him, still confused about how this was happening. "I'll be back in 20 minutes. Make yourself at home. There's food in the fridge if you're hungry. Coffee, tea, whatever you need." He grabbed an umbrella and his wallet and left before she could protest anymore. Andy stood alone in a stranger's penthouse, dripping garbage water onto what was probably very expensive flooring. This was insane. This whole night was insane. She went to the bathroom, looked at herself in the mirror. Mascara running down her face in black streams. Hair a disaster. Blue dress completely ruined. She smelled terrible. Perfect. This is exactly how I wanted to end this day. She took a shower, long and hot, let the water wash away the street grime, and the tears, and the entire nightmare of a day. The bathroom was ridiculous. All marble and chrome with a shower that had 6 different shower heads. The products were expensive brands she'd never tried, because they cost more than her entire hair care budget for a year. She wrapped herself in a towel that was softer than any towel she'd ever owned and went back to the bedroom. There were clothes on the bed, new clothes with tags still attached. Bergdorf Goodman. A simple black dress that probably cost $800. Underwear still in the package. Shoes, a coat, everything in her exact size. How had he known the exact sizes when she'd just rattled them off once? There was a knock on the door. "Andy, are you decent?" "Yes." He came in. He'd changed too. Jeans and a black Henley, hair still damp. "Did everything fit?" "How did you know the exact sizes?" "I have a sister. I've gotten good at estimating." He shrugged. "And the woman at Bergdorf knows me. She helped." "You spent how much on this?" "Doesn't matter." When someone says it doesn't matter about money, it means I can't afford to even look at the price tag. He smiled slightly. "I covered you in garbage water. You think I was going to let you leave in wet clothes? Come on. I made tea, or coffee if you prefer. And there's food if you're hungry." The living room had floor-to-ceiling windows showing the city lit up below them. Rain streaked the glass. He handed her tea and sat across from her with an espresso. "So," he said after a moment, "do you want to talk about why you were crying on Madison Avenue? Or should we pretend that didn't happen?" "Pretending sounds good." "Works for me." They sat in silence. It should have been awkward. Somehow it wasn't. Then Andy started talking. She didn't plan to. It just came out. "My fiancé was cheating on me. I found out an hour ago. It had been going on for 8 months. He proposed in the middle of the affair. So now I don't have a fiancé. And I spent 3 years sacrificing everything for a job where my boss treats me like trash. And tonight you covered me in sewer water. So, yeah, it's been a day." Stefan looked at her for a long moment. "That's terrible." "Which part? There are several to choose from." "All of it, but especially your ex. Cheating for 8 months and still having the nerve to propose? That's sociopath behavior. He said it was my fault. For working too much. For never being around. Of course he did. Because taking responsibility is hard. Easier to blame you for his choices. You're being nice. I'm being honest." He leaned forward. "And for the record, I really am sorry. About the water. About your day. About everything. The water wasn't the worst part of today. That's incredibly sad. That's my life, apparently." He got up and went to the kitchen. "Have you eaten?" "Not since 6 a.m. That explains why you look like you're about to fall over. Come on, I'll make something. He made pasta, simple carbonara. She sat at the counter and watched him cook, and realized she was starving. When had she last had a real meal? Yesterday? The day before? They ate and talked. She told him about Victoria, about 3 years of trying to prove herself, about sacrificing friends and hobbies and relationships for a job that was supposed to be her dream, but had turned into a nightmare. He listened. Actually listened. Didn't interrupt. Didn't try to give her advice she hadn't asked for. Just let her talk. "What about you?" she asked when she'd finally run out of steam. "What do you do besides accidentally drown people and buy them designer clothes?" "I own a security company, Greco Security. We provide protection for VIPs, celebrities, CEOs, people who need discretion." "How'd you get into that?" "Family business, grew up around it, made sense to continue." He didn't elaborate. Andy noticed the vagueness but was too tired to push. It was past midnight when she finally looked at her phone. "I should go. You probably have work tomorrow." "I do, but not early. You?" 7 a.m. "Then you definitely need sleep." He pulled out his phone. "I'm sending a car for you." "An Uber is fine." "No. My driver. Safe, reliable, and not negotiable." She was going to argue but saw his expression. Decided it wasn't worth the fight. "Thank you. For everything. For the clothes. For the food. For listening. For making the worst day of my life slightly less terrible." "Your day was still terrible. I just made one small part of it less awful." "It was more than that." She looked at him. Really looked at him. "You're a good person. I'm not as good as you think." "Okay, mysterious stranger." He smiled. "Can I get your number, just to make sure you get home safely?" She gave it to him. He texted immediately. Her phone buzzed. "Now you have mine too." The car arrived. A black town car with a driver who called her Miss Smith and held the door open. Stefan walked her down. "Good luck tomorrow, with Victoria. I'll need it." "And Andy?" "Yeah? Your ex is an idiot, just for the record." She smiled. First real smile all day. "Good night, Stefan." "Good night." She got in the car and watched through the window as he stood in the rain watching her drive away. Her phone buzzed before she was even out of sight. "Stefan, text me when you're home, so I know you made it safely." "Andy, you know you just put me in a car with your driver, right? You'll know if I make it safely." "Stefan, humor me." She smiled at her phone, texted Jasmine. "Andy, you're not going to believe the night I had." Jasmine, "Did Ethan apologize?" Andy, "Worse. Found out he's been cheating for 8 months. Then I got soaked by a car. Now I'm wearing a $1,000 dress and have been fed pasta by a stranger who lives in a penthouse." Jasmine, "Are you okay? Were you kidnapped? Blink twice if you need help." Andy, "I came voluntarily. That's probably worse." Jasmine, Andrea Smith. The driver got her back to Williamsburg by 1 a.m. She trudged up 4 flights of stairs to her apartment. Jasmine was waiting up. "You're wearing Bergdorf Goodman." "I know." "Start talking. Now." Andy told her everything. Ethan. "Rebecca. 8 months. The ring on the coffee table. Walking in the rain. The splash. Stefan. The penthouse. The clothes. The pasta. All of it." Jasmine listened to the whole story with increasingly wide eyes. "Okay, so first, Ethan is dead to me. I'm blocking his number from my phone. Second, are we sure this Stefan guy isn't a serial killer?" "Pretty sure." "Pretty sure isn't definitely sure. He had a doorman. Serial killers don't usually have doormen." "That's not how that works." Jasmine paused. "Did you Google him?" Andy pulled out her phone, typed Stefan Greco into the search bar. Several results came up. Greco Security. articles about high-profile security contracts, photos of Stefan at various events, always in expensive suits, always with important-looking people. Some politicians, some businessmen, some with the kind of faces that made you wonder what exactly they did for a living. He owns a security company, Andy said, that tracks with the penthouse and the designer clothes budget. Jasmine scrolled through the results. He's gorgeous. I noticed. Are you going to see him again? I don't know. Probably not. Tonight was just weird circumstances. He felt bad about the water. That's all. Her phone buzzed. Stefan. Home safe? Andy. Yes. Jasmine is interrogating me about whether you're a serial killer. Stefan. What's the verdict? Andy. Jury's still out. Stefan. Fair. Sleep well. Hope tomorrow is better than today. Andy. Impossible for it to be worse. Stefan. That's the spirit. She went to bed in her tiny room in Williamsburg wearing a $1,000 dress because she was too tired to change. Fell asleep thinking about the strangest night of her life. The next morning, she woke up to another text. Stefan. How's Victoria today? Andy smiled at her phone despite the exhaustion. Despite having slept maybe 4 hours. Despite knowing she had to face the presentation in an hour. Andy. Impossible as always. How'd you know I'd be thinking about work? Stefan. Lucky guess. Good luck with the presentation. You've got this. Andy. Thanks. I'll need it. The presentation had gone surprisingly well. Victoria had actually nodded approval at a few slides. The advertisers had seemed impressed. James Morrison, the photographer, had nailed the meeting. By 10 a.m., Andy felt like maybe, just maybe, things were looking up. Her phone buzzed at 10:30. Stefan. How'd it go? Andy. Better than expected. Victoria almost smiled. I'm calling it a win. Stefan. Told you. You've got this. Coffee sometime? Andy stared at the message. He was asking her out. Actually asking her out. Not just being nice because he'd soaked her in garbage water. Actually interested. She should probably say no. Should take time to process the Ethan situation. Should be single for a while. Should make smart, responsible choices. She typed, yes, when? Stefan. Whenever you're free. Tomorrow, this weekend? Andy. Saturday, 10 a.m.? Stefan. Perfect. Where? Andy. There's a cafe in Williamsburg, near my apartment, Devoción. You know it? Stefan. I'll find it. See you Saturday. Andy. See you Saturday. Jasmine had appeared at her desk during lunch. She didn't work there, but had visitor access, because she'd been Andy's +1 to enough events. Okay, so I need full details. Last night. Everything. They'd gone to a coffee shop nearby. Andy had told the whole story again. Every detail. Jasmine had listened with increasing disbelief. And you're seeing him again Saturday? Just coffee. At the cafe near our apartment, so he's coming to Brooklyn. I figured if he's a serial killer, at least I'm on home turf. That's not reassuring logic. Jasmine had pulled out her phone, showed Andy more search results. I dug deeper. He's legit. Company exists. Good reputation. But some of the people he's photographed with, at events, they have interesting backgrounds. Interesting how? Like possibly organized crime interesting, but nothing concrete, just associations. Andy had looked at the photos. Stefan in a tux at a charity gala standing next to a man whose Wikipedia page was very carefully worded. Stefan at a business dinner with people whose companies had been investigated but never charged. Nothing illegal. Just connections that made you wonder. I think his family might be involved in some complicated things, Andy had said. And you're okay with that? I don't know. But I'm curious enough to have coffee with him. Saturday morning, Andy had changed clothes 3 times. Settled on jeans and a sweater. Casual. Like this wasn't a big deal even though her stomach was doing flips. She'd arrived at Devoción at 9:50. Stefan was already there. sitting at a corner table, 2 coffees already ordered. He'd stood when she walked in. Smiled. "You're early. So are you." "Habit. I don't like being late." They'd sat. The coffee was perfect. Colombian, single origin. The kind of coffee that made you understand why people were snobs about coffee. "So," Stefan had said, "how was the rest of your week?" "Exhausting. Victoria found 12 new things to criticize. But I survived." That's all you can ask for sometimes. They'd talked for 2 hours. About everything. About growing up. About families. About dreams and disappointments. He'd told her about learning the security business from his father. About taking over when his father had died 6 years ago. About the pressure of living up to expectations while trying to make the business his own. She told him about wanting to work in fashion since she was 16. About internships and entry-level jobs and slowly climbing. About Victoria being her hero until she'd actually met her. About realizing your dreams could be different than you'd imagined. "What would you do?" Stefan had asked. "If you could do anything. If money and practicality weren't factors." "I don't know. I've been so focused on HIC magazine for so long I haven't thought about alternatives. Maybe that's something to think about. Maybe." At noon, he'd suggested lunch. A small place nearby. They'd walked through Williamsburg. He'd asked about the neighborhood. She'd pointed out her favorite spots. The bookstore she spent too much time in. The coffee shop with the best cold brew. The vintage store that had incredible finds if you had patience. Over lunch, he'd asked more about her life. About Jasmine. About her family. About what she did for fun when she wasn't working 80-hour weeks. "Honestly, I don't remember the last time I did something just for fun. That's sad. That's my life for the last 3 years. Maybe it's time for a different life. Maybe." They'd walked back through the neighborhood, stopped at the waterfront, looked out at Manhattan across the river, the skyline familiar and distant at the same time. "Thank you for this," Andy had said. "For coffee, for lunch, for taking time out of your Saturday. Thank you for saying yes, for giving me a chance after I literally covered you in garbage water." She'd laughed. "When you put it that way, I should probably be more careful about my decision-making. Probably, but I'm glad you're not." He'd walked her back to her building, all 5 flights up to her apartment because he'd wanted to. At her door, she'd turned. "Do you want to come in?" "I should probably go. Let you have your weekend." "Oh, okay. But can I see you again? Tomorrow, maybe? Or is that too much too fast?" Andy had smiled. "Tomorrow works. What did you have in mind?" "Surprise me. Show me something you love. Something you do just for yourself." "I don't really do things just for myself." "Then show me something you'd like to do. If you had time." She'd thought about it. "There's a photography exhibit at the Met. I've been wanting to go, but haven't had time. Would that be boring?" "That sounds perfect. Tomorrow, noon?" "Okay." He'd kissed her goodbye. Soft and brief. The kind of kiss that was a promise of more, later. Sunday, they'd spent 5 hours at the museum. The photography exhibit had been incredible. They'd wandered through other galleries after. Egyptian art, European paintings. The rooftop garden with views of Central Park. They'd had dinner nearby. Italian place he knew. The owner had greeted him by name, had given them the best table, had sent over appetizers they hadn't ordered. "You know everyone," Andy had said. "I've lived in this city my whole life. You collect people." That sounds ominous. Not ominous, just you build relationships. Help people when you can. They remember. Monday, she'd gone back to work feeling different. Lighter somehow. Despite Victoria, despite the chaos. Something had shifted. Stefan had texted her throughout the day. Not constantly, just checking in. How was work? Did she eat lunch? Hope Victoria wasn't being terrible. Small things. But they mattered. Tuesday, he'd shown up at her office at 1 p.m. with flowers. Expensive flowers from an arrangement that probably cost $200. Victoria had seen him through the glass walls of her office, had raised one perfect eyebrow, had come out. "Andrea, who's your friend?" "Stefan Greco." "Stefan, this is Victoria Stone." Victoria had assessed him in 3 seconds, the way she assessed everyone. "The car, downstairs, that's yours?" "Yes." "And the flowers, those are from Putnam and Putnam." "They are. Expensive taste." Victoria had looked at Andy. "Go. Take your lunch. 1 hour. Don't be late back." Andy had blinked. Victoria never let anyone take full lunch breaks. "Seriously?" "Don't make me regret it." They'd had lunch at a small French place. Stefan had asked about her morning. She'd vented about Victoria, about impossible deadlines and changing requirements and the feeling that nothing she did was ever good enough. "Why do you stay?" he'd asked. "Because this is supposed to be my dream. Because I've worked so hard to get here. Because quitting feels like admitting failure. Recognizing something isn't right for you isn't failure. It's wisdom." Easy to say. Not easy, but true. That night he'd called her at 11 p.m. just to talk. They'd been on the phone for 2 hours, about everything and nothing, about childhood memories and embarrassing stories and the kind of random thoughts that come out late at night. Wednesday they'd gone to dinner in Brooklyn, small Ethiopian restaurant she loved. He'd never had Ethiopian food, had been willing to try, had actually liked it. They'd walked back to her apartment slowly, taking their time, not wanting the night to end. "Can I ask you something?" Andy had said. "Always." "Why me? You could have just driven away Thursday night. Could have not stopped. Could have decided it wasn't worth the hassle. Why did you stop?" He'd thought about it. "Because someone needed help. And I was in a position to help. That's how I was raised. You see someone in trouble, you don't just drive away. Most people would have driven away." "Then most people weren't raised by my mother." She'd smiled. "Tell me about your family." "Italian, loud, opinionated about everything. My mother calls me every Sunday to complain I don't visit enough. My sister calls me twice a week to tell me about her kids, my brothers. They're in the business with me. Different aspects, but we work together." "Are you close?" "Very. Sometimes too close." "Italian families." "We're in each other's business constantly. No privacy, no boundaries, just constant involvement." "That sounds nice, actually." "You say that because you haven't experienced Sunday dinner with 40 relatives who all have opinions about your life. My family is small, quiet, reserved. Sometimes I wished for chaos." Careful what you wish for. Thursday marked 1 week since the splash. Stefan had texted her at 9:50 p.m. "Stefan, 1 week ago I covered you in garbage water. Andy, best worst moment of my life." "Stefan, want to celebrate? Dinner tomorrow?" Andy, "Yes, but somewhere nice. I want to wear one of the dresses you bought me." Stefan, "Done. I'll pick you up at 8. Friday night he'd taken her to a French restaurant in Manhattan, the kind where you needed a reservation weeks in advance, where the menu didn't have prices, where the wine list was leather-bound and extensive. They'd talked about the week, about work and life, and how strange it was that a week ago they'd been strangers, and now Andy couldn't imagine not knowing him. "Can I tell you something?" she'd said over dessert. "Anything." "I broke off my engagement a week ago. I found Ethan cheating and I left, and I haven't really processed it. I probably shouldn't be dating anyone right now. I should take time to be alone and figure out who I am without him. But I don't want to. I like this. I like you. I like how I feel when I'm with you." Like I'm myself. Not Andrea who works too much, or Andrea who's disappointing someone. Just me. Stefan had reached across the table, taken her hand. Then don't take time. Or do. Whatever you need. But know that I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here whether you need space or want to keep doing this. What if I want to keep doing this? Then we keep doing this. She'd smiled, squeezed his hand. Okay, let's keep doing this. A month in, she started noticing other things too. The phone calls he'd step away to take. Always in Italian. Always with a tone that made her think whatever he was discussing wasn't good news. The man who'd approached him at a bar one night had called him capo. Stefan had dismissed him quickly, firmly. The man had left immediately. The fact that there always seemed to be people around them, not obviously. But Andy was observant. 2 men at a table across from them at dinner. The same car she'd seen parked outside her building that was also parked near the restaurant. Security. He had security following them. She didn't say anything. Not yet. Just filed it away with all the other small oddities. 6 weeks in, Jasmine Googled him more thoroughly. Your boyfriend has some interesting friends. He's not my boyfriend. We're just dating. You've stayed at his place 4 times this week. That's boyfriend territory. What did you find? Jasmine showed her the articles. Nothing incriminating. Just photos. Stefan at charity events. At business dinners. Always with important people. Some of those people had interesting reputations. The kind of reputations that made you wonder about their business dealings. I'm just saying maybe be careful, Jasmine said. Careful of what? I don't know. Just, he's clearly involved in something, and you're getting attached. Andy was getting attached. That was the problem. She liked Stefan, liked spending time with him, liked the way he listened and made her laugh and treated her like she mattered, liked that he never made her feel bad about her job or her choices or her life. 2 months in, she saw something she wasn't supposed to see. They were walking past his office building downtown. He'd pointed it out once. Through the glass front, she could see into a conference room. Stefan was in there with 4 men, all in suits, all looking serious. One of them had a gun visible in a shoulder holster. Stefan saw her seeing. His expression changed. Not guilty, just aware. That night at his place, she asked, "What exactly is your family business?" I told you. Security. That's not all of it, though, is it? He was quiet for a long moment. No, it's not all of it. Are you going to tell me the rest? Do you want me to? Andy thought about it. About the phone calls and the security detail and the man who'd called him capo and the guns in the office. I think I already know, she said. I just want to hear you say it. My family has been in New York for 3 generations. The security business is legitimate. Everything I do through Greco Security is legal and above board. But my family, the rest of my family, they're involved in things that aren't legal. Haven't been for a very long time. Organized crime. That's one way to put it. Is there another way? Family business, but yes, organized crime is accurate. Andy processed that, sat with it, tried to figure out how she felt. Are you involved in the illegal parts? I keep my business separate, but I can't separate myself from my family, from what they do, from who they are. It's part of my life whether I'm directly involved or not. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked. And because you deserve to know what you're getting into if you keep seeing me. You're giving me an out. I'm giving you all the information. What you do with it is up to you. Andy stood up, walked to the windows, looked out at the city. 3 months ago, she'd been engaged to Ethan, had been planning a future that had seemed safe and predictable and boring, had been sacrificing everything for a job that was crushing her slowly. Now she was standing in a penthouse with a man who'd just admitted his family was involved in organized crime. This was insane. This was the kind of thing that happened in movies, not real life. She should leave. Should thank him for his honesty and walk away and find someone normal. Someone safe. Someone whose family business didn't involve breaking laws. She turned back to him. Does this change anything? Between us? That's up to you. Have you lied to me about anything? No. Have you ever made me feel unsafe? I hope not. Have you treated me badly? Disrespected me? Done anything that would make me question your character? Not intentionally. Then no. It doesn't change anything. He looked surprised. You're staying? Why wouldn't I? Because I just told you my family is involved in organized crime. You said your family, not you. You run a legitimate business. You've been nothing but good to me. Whatever your family does, that's their choice, not yours. It's not that simple. Being with me means being adjacent to all of it. There are risks. There are risks to everything. I could get hit by a taxi tomorrow. Victoria could finally snap and murder me with a letter opener. Life is risky. This is different. Maybe. But I'm choosing to stay anyway. She walked back to him. Unless you don't want me to. He pulled her close. I want you to stay. Then I'm staying. He kissed her, long and deep. When they broke apart, he said, You're either very brave or completely insane. Probably both. Definitely both. Things changed after that conversation. Not dramatically. Not with some big reveal or moment of truth. Just gradually. Honestly. Stefan stopped being vague about certain things. Started letting her see parts of his life he'd kept separate before. Not everything, but more. Week 3, they were having dinner at a small Italian place in Brooklyn when his phone rang. He glanced at it. I need to take this. 2 minutes. He stepped outside. Andy could see him through the window, could see his body language change, the way he held himself differently when he was discussing business, the way his expression hardened. He was speaking Italian. Fast, clipped sentences, making decisions, giving orders. When he came back inside, his tone was different. Still warm with her. But there was an edge underneath. Something she hadn't seen before. Everything okay? She asked. Work issue, nothing urgent. But she'd seen his face, had seen the way he'd looked. It hadn't been nothing, but she didn't push. Month 1, they went to a bar in Soho. Nice place, dim lighting, good music. They'd been there maybe 20 minutes when a man approached their table. Mid-40s, expensive suit. He nodded at Stefan with deference that seemed excessive for a casual acquaintance. Capo, the man said. Didn't know you'd be here tonight. Stefan's expression didn't change. Marcus, enjoy your evening. It was a dismissal. The man understood immediately, nodded again and left. Andy waited until he was gone. Capo? Old habit. Some people use titles I don't encourage. What kind of title is capo? Italian. Means boss. Some of my family's business associates are traditional. The way he said it. The careful phrasing. Andy understood what he wasn't saying. She noticed other things after that. Started paying attention in ways she hadn't before. There were always people around them. Not obviously. But Andy was observant. She saw the same car following them to dinner. Saw 2 men at a table across the restaurant who didn't eat much, but watched the room constantly. Security. Stefan had security following them everywhere. You have bodyguards, she said one night in his penthouse. Precautions. For what? My line of work requires caution. You provide security for other people. Why do you need security? Because sometimes protecting people makes you a target. It was a non-answer answer, the kind he was good at. But Andy was starting to see the pattern, started connecting dots she'd been ignoring. Month 2, she saw something she wasn't meant to see. They were walking past his office building downtown. He'd pointed it out once. Greco Security. Through the glass front, she could see into a conference room on the ground floor. Stefan was in there with 4 men, all in expensive suits, all with serious expressions. One of them had a gun visible in a shoulder holster. Stefan saw her looking. His expression changed. Not guilty, just aware, calculating. That evening at his place, she brought it up, kept her voice casual. Your security company. That's not all of it, is it? He was quiet for a moment, stood looking out the windows at the city. No, it's not all of it. But you're not going to tell me what the rest is. Do you want me to? Andy thought about it. About the phone calls in Italian. About being called capo. About the security detail and the guns and the way certain people treated Stefan with a kind of deference that went beyond professional respect. I think I already know, she said quietly. I don't know if I want to hear you say it. He turned to look at her. My security business is completely legitimate. Everything I do through Greco Security is legal. Above board. I file every permit, pay every tax, follow every regulation. But my family has been in New York for 3 generations, and the business that brought us here, that built our foundation, that wasn't legal. And my family. Some of them. They're still involved in things that exist in gray areas. Or beyond gray areas. Organized crime. He didn't flinch from the term. Yes, my family is involved in organized crime. Has been for decades. I run the legitimate side. Keep it separate. But I can't completely separate myself from what they do. From who they are. It's complicated. Andy sat down on the couch. Processed that. Tried to figure out how she felt. Part of her had known, had pieced it together from all the small signs. But hearing him confirm it was different, made it real in a way it hadn't been when it was just suspicion. Are you involved in the illegal parts? I keep my business separate from my family's other operations. But do I attend family meetings where decisions are made? Yes. Do I know what they're doing? Generally, yes. Am I complicit by association? Probably. That's honest. You deserve honesty. She looked at him. At this man who'd splashed her with garbage water and bought her expensive clothes and made her pasta and listened to her cry about her terrible life, who'd been kind and patient and genuine, who apparently had a family involved in organized crime. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked. Because you deserve to know. And because if you're going to keep seeing me, you need to understand what you're getting into. There are risks to being with me, to being known as someone I care about. I need you to know that. You're giving me an out. I'm giving you information. What you do with it is your choice. Andy stood up, walked to the windows, looked out at Manhattan stretched below them. Millions of people. Millions of lives. Millions of choices being made every second. 3 months ago, she'd been engaged to Ethan, planning a safe, predictable future, sacrificing everything for a job that was slowly destroying her soul, living a life that looked good on paper, but felt empty in reality. Now she was standing in a penthouse with a man whose family was involved in organized crime, whose world included guns and bodyguards and phone calls in Italian about things she probably didn't want to know about. This was insane. This was dangerous. This was the kind of thing that happened in movies, not to junior editors from Connecticut. She should leave. Should thank him for his honesty and walk away. Find someone normal. Someone whose biggest complication was a bad credit score or an annoying roommate. But when had normal made her happy? Ethan had been normal. Victoria had been her dream. All the safe, predictable choices had led her to crying on a street corner in the rain, feeling like her life was falling apart. Stefan had been an accident. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong puddle. But he'd shown her more kindness in 3 months than most people had shown her in years. Had listened without judgment. Had supported her when she'd quit HIC magazine. Had never made her feel like she had to choose between her work and him. Had been honest when he could have lied. She turned back to him. Have you lied to me about anything? About us? No, never. Have you ever made me feel unsafe? God, I hope not. Have you treated me badly? Disrespected me? Done anything that would make me question your character? Not intentionally. Then why would this change anything? He looked surprised. Because I just told you my family is involved in organized crime. You said your family, not you. You run a legitimate business. You've been nothing but good to me. What your family does, those are their choices, not yours. It's not that simple. Being with me means being adjacent to all of it. There could be risks. People who might try to use you to get to me. Situations that could be dangerous. Life is risky. I could get hit by a taxi tomorrow. Victoria could have finally snapped and stabbed me with a letter opener. Ethan could have given me some disease from his affair. Everything is risky. This is different. Maybe, but I'm choosing to stay anyway. She walked over to him. Unless you don't want me to? He pulled her close, wrapped his arms around her. I want you to stay, more than anything. Then I'm staying. He kissed her, deep and intense, like he was trying to memorize the feel of her. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. You're either very brave or completely insane. Probably both. Definitely both. After that conversation, things shifted. Stefan let her see more, let her into parts of his life he'd kept separate. She met his family a few weeks later. Sunday dinner at his uncle's house in Queens. Loud and chaotic and overwhelming in the best way. His mother had hugged her and immediately started criticizing her weight. Too skinny, you don't eat enough. Come, sit. We fix this. His sister had interrogated her about her intentions. You know what he is, what we are. And you're still here? I'm still here. Why? Because he makes me happy. Because he's good to me. Because whatever else is true about your family, I know he's a good person. His sister had smiled. Okay. You can stay. His cousins had told embarrassing stories about Stefan as a kid. His uncle had made jokes about him finally settling down. His mother had pulled Andy aside at the end of the night. You know what we are. I know. You stay anyway. I stay anyway. Then you are family now. This is how it works. Once you're in, you're in. We protect our own. Andy had felt something shift in her chest. This strange, chaotic, loud family had accepted her, had claimed her. No questions. No judgment. Just belonging. Month 4. She quit HIC magazine. Gave Victoria 2 weeks' notice. Victoria had looked at the resignation letter and done something Andy had never seen before. She'd smiled. Actually smiled. About time. What? You're too good to work for someone else. Too talented to be someone's assistant forever. You should have done this 2 years ago. It was the closest thing to a compliment Victoria had ever given her. Thank you. For everything. For teaching me. For pushing me. Don't thank me. I was terrible to you, but you survived. That counts for something. Victoria had stood up, extended her hand. Good luck. And if you ever need a reference, call me. I'll tell them you're brilliant, because you are. Andy had started freelance consulting. Smaller magazines, better hours, less money initially, but infinitely more freedom. Stefan had offered financial help. She'd refused. needed to do this herself. He'd understood. Month 5. Ethan had tried to contact her. One text. "Can we talk? I miss you." Stefan had been there when the message came through, had seen Andy's expression. "What do you want to do about it?" "Nothing. It's over. He made his choice. If you want me to handle it, I can. One phone call. He'll never contact you again." Andy had looked at him, at the casual way he'd offered, at what that implied about his ability to make problems disappear. "No, I can handle my own ex-fiancé. I don't need you to do anything." He'd smiled. Genuine smile. Okay. Ethan hadn't texted again. Andy didn't ask what Stefan had done. Some things were better left unknown. Month 6, she moved out of Williamsburg officially. Gave up the apartment she'd shared with Jasmine. Moved her things into Stefan's penthouse. Her clothes in his closet. Her books on his shelves. Her coffee mug in his kitchen. Jasmine had helped her pack up the last boxes. "So, you're really doing this. Moving in with the Mafia guy. His family, he runs a legitimate business." "That's semantics. That's accurate." Andy had taped up a box. "I love him. He loves me. I'm happier than I've been in years. That's what matters." "Okay. But if you disappear mysteriously, I'm calling the FBI. Deal." Life settled into new patterns. Morning coffee on the terrace watching the sun rise over Central Park. Her working from home on freelance projects. Him coming back for lunch when his schedule allowed. Dinners together unless business required otherwise. Weekend trips to Connecticut to visit her family who'd warmed to Stefan despite their initial reservations. Her mother had pulled her aside during one visit. "He's different than Ethan." "That's a good thing." "I know, Are you safe with him?" "Safer than I've ever been." His family, though. The things people say. His family's business is complicated, but Stefan treats me well. Makes me happy. Supports my career. Never makes me feel bad about my choices. That's what matters. Her mother had hugged her. "Okay. As long as you're happy." "I am. Really happy." 7 months after the splash, Andy was working on her laptop on the couch in the penthouse. Stefan was in the kitchen making dinner. Rain hit the windows, the same kind of rain that had been falling the night they'd met. "Remember when you ruined my favorite dress?" she called out. "I bought you 6 dresses to replace it. It's not the same." He came into the living room, sat next to her. "Want me to splash you again? We could recreate the moment." "Absolutely not. Once was enough." He kissed her. "Best accident of my life. You covered me in garbage water. And you decided to trust me anyway. That says something about you. Says I make questionable decisions. Says you're mine." She smiled, closed her laptop. Both things can be true. They sat there on the couch, rain falling outside. The city spread below them. 2 people who'd found each other in the strangest way possible and decided to stay. Sometimes the universe compensates for terrible days in unexpected ways. Sometimes getting soaked in street water leads to designer dresses and penthouse views and someone who actually sees you. Sometimes the worst nights turn into the best things. Sometimes all it takes is a car hitting a puddle at exactly the wrong moment that turns out to be exactly the right moment. Andrea Smith got splashed by a stranger's car on the worst night of her life at 9:50 p.m. on a Thursday in October. 30 minutes later, she was dry and wearing designer clothes in his penthouse. 7 months later, she was living there, building a life with someone who'd accidentally driven through her worst day and somehow become her best thing. Funny how life works sometimes. How one moment of bad luck becomes the beginning of everything. How a stranger becomes home. How garbage water becomes the start of the story you'll tell for the rest of your life.